All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Amy Brown. I'm the president of the International Polymer Clay Association. And today, for those of you watching our recording, I'm talking with the designers of the Sculpey brand. And so the nice thing is we have an ambassador with us, so we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But we're also going to be talking to the design squad, which there's 12 every year, and I'm going to show you how to find them. But first of all, Amy, I want to say welcome, Anke in Germany, and Lauren, who's right next door to me, I found out, in North Carolina. So to get started, I'm going to start with Amy, and we're going to ask a couple questions about Sculpey and the design squad. And then I'm going to take everyone to the website, and we're going to actually see how you can find who the current design squad is. So Amy, we were just talking about that you're an ambassador, and you've been doing this for 30 years, working on projects and stuff for Sculpey. So what does your job entail?
Yeah, so I function as a contract designer, and that's very similar to what many people do for Sculpey. There's a lot of contract designers. We're offered contracts for various projects, and those could come a lot or a little throughout the year. I just get them via email, fill out, you know, do a project based on theme, age appropriateness, beginner, intermediate, advanced, and then submit those via email. And then finally send in, finished projects that will be written up and posted online. And those are on the Sculpey website, giving people all kinds. There's literally hundreds and hundreds of free projects all the time on the Sculpey website. And they're free for any user to learn how to use Sculpey. And so I write a lot of those, and that is my function. I also kind of perform as the video person I do the high-speed videos that come out with my hands making like a long project in a minute. They boil my work down to about a minute, and those are on the Sculpey YouTube channel. And then from time to time, we do teach some online classes, and we've done that a lot with Michael's Arts and Crafts, and I've taught those.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Now, Anke, you're in Germany, but you've also been an ambassador for a long time. So tell us what the difference is from what an ambassador does.
Well, what's the difference? I'm doing a lot of the same things that Amy is doing. Mostly we get projects, and we do projects for Sculpey and send them in via email. But we also have, like, each of the design team has a month. And in that month, we're highlighted, and we do like Instagram takeover, and we talk a little bit more about what we are doing and our preferences. And in the design squad, there's a lot of different people, and so they have like going from miniature through jewelry, some are sculpting, and so all the different topics that you can do with the clay are covered during the year. And every month there is one of us spotlighted, and they show a little bit more of what they are doing. So I think it's quite good to have that range of all the different projects showing.
Great. And Lauren, I didn't have this written down for you, but how did then you get on the design squad? Was it you filled something out, or did they come to you and they've seen your work online?
Honestly,
oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to Lauren, sorry, because I'm like trying to get all of you in now.
yeah. Oh, sorry. Honestly, I can't remember, but a few years ago, Jen from Sculpey and I connected, and I started kind of becoming like an influencer. And so they would have me create projects to put on my own blog, my own Instagram, and share and promote that way. So I have tons of tutorials on my own blog. And then when the design team came open this year, she sent it to me, and so I applied and got in. So this is my first year on the design squad of doing the projects for Sculpey's website, but I've been doing them for Sculpey on my own site for a few years now.
Oh, okay, great. So that makes sense. Because I was wondering if anyone watching this, if they were interested in that. I thought I'm going to take you guys really quick over to the Sculpey website so everyone knows how to find this information. So let me get back to the Sculpey website. I'm going to quickly share my screen. Okay, so for anyone here, if you're trying to find out who is on the design squad, and I guess I don't know if it features what month, but I found you guys through the Sculpey website, clicking on the word blog. And then down here, there's all kinds of different information, but to find out specifically, our Sculpey design squad is how we found all of you. And these are the current design squad. I do have an interview coming up, part 2. It'll be with Holly and with Teresa. We'll be scheduling that pretty soon. But I think there's just so much information in here. And Amy, you had mentioned lots of projects. So you could go from down here. Now, could I get to projects from just the Sculpey page, or do I have to go to the blog?
No, you should be able to get to projects from the Sculpey page as well, from
Okay.
the opening.
New product sales. Yeah, because that's how I go. I go to the blog first, and then that's where I do.
I think go to how to.
Yeah. And I'm having a problem with my computer. It's just,
Oh, okay.
so, yeah. So you can go through the blog or go to the how to. So that's how everyone can find
Right,
out that
right.
kind of stuff. All right. So I'm going to go to the question round. And the first question, and we're going to
Hey,
start.
Amy, can I add something real quick?
Yeah.
I think also, and maybe Lauren can chime in on this, that the designs, the open spaces on the design squad there's an open call for those each year.
Yeah.
And so if people subscribe to the Sculpey newsletter and follow Sculpey on Facebook, they can be aware of the open call for filling in spaces on the design squad so that people can apply for it.
I feel like I remember coming across that. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah. Yeah. So people can sign up for the Sculpey newsletter through the website. And then there it says newsletter right there.
Yeah, right here.
And then if they follow Sculpey on social media, they could be made aware that we're looking for a miniature person or a sculptor or, someone to apply for the design squad. And because it works both ways, you can want to be on it and find yourself there, or they could maybe approach you through your own social media account. So
yeah, and also reminding everybody, here's everywhere. Just look for these buttons on most websites. Just go to the bottom and look for all of these. But I did see something about there was a section there about filling out and getting more information, and if you'd like to apply or if you'd like to teach, things like that. So there's so much on this website. It's a lot. Okay, so we're going to start out with Amy in our first question. How long have you been working with polymer clay, and how did you first learn about it?
So Tom and I were on our honeymoon in 1989. I had already been through college with art degrees. And there we were on our honeymoon, staring at a case full of polymer clay jewelry that I had never seen before in my whole life, this medium. And I had to have it. So the search was on to find what that medium was and what one could do with it. And that happened like late fall 1989.
Well, what were you working in before that? I mean, had you been working in ceramics?
Everything.
Yeah.
I had a lot of training in graphic design and fine arts. I tried everything from pinstriping automobiles to hand lettering on, outdoor signage. Everything was in my little toolkit. And after I found polymer, there was nothing else in the toolkit but polymer.
And I know you're the one who probably figures out like, I have this tool. How can I apply this to polymer? So.
Oh yeah, because then, in that day, we didn't have any tools. We were stealing everything from the kitchen and the, the garage, the woodworking shop, whatever we could get our hands on to put a mark in polymer clay. That's what we were doing then. So yeah.
All right. What about you, Anke? So when did you find out about polymer clay and, the venue that you saw it? And then how long have you been working with it?
Since I'm in Germany, I have been exposed to polymer clay since I've been a teenager, because Stadler and Fimo is in Germany and their polymer clay was invented. And I used to do all these awful broches that we did at that time. You know, they were like black broches with wiggles on them and rhinestones and all kind of things like that. But I forgot about it again. And later, it was when my son was born, I started working in earnest with polymer clay, and my son will be 30 next year. So that's how long I've been working with polymer clay already. And what happened then was, like Amy, I've been trying out so many different crafts. And my thing at that time was glass beads. And I want to make them, but you need an open flame to do that. So that was not a good idea with a small child. And I started digging into beading, and a friend of mine took me to this craft store in Berlin where I used at that time. And they had all kinds of craft stamps and all kinds of interesting craft material from the US that I hadn't seen before. But they also had a small shelf with these colored blocks, and they were actually Primo by Sculpey. And I hadn't seen that brand before, so I took a couple of them home. And that's when I actually started working with Sculpey. And yeah, it's been nearly 30 years now. It's a long time.
And I think I'll try to show later, because a lot of the folks watching are international and they're going to want to know where you can buy Sculpey overseas. And that's another thing you can find through the website, stockists that are overseas as well. So that's good to know for people that are thinking it's only in the US you can buy it. And okay, Lauren, I'm going to spotlight you. Same question for you.
So the first time I remember coming across polymer clay was maybe 7 or 8 years ago online. An artist I followed was making clay jewelry. And so I bought a couple pairs and I really loved them. And at that time I was an art journaler, but I liked, the more like kind of tactile crafts. And so I was living overseas at the time. So when I went home for the summer, I brought a suitcase full of clay back, and I was like, I can figure this out. I want to, try and do this. And I just kind of dabbled with it for a little while. And then when the pandemic hit, I was sitting at home and on Pinterest, and I was like, all right, I'm going to figure out how to do this. And so I guess in about 2020 was when I got really serious about starting to work with polymer clay. And then it literally took over my whole life.
So did you have any problems getting clay during the pandemic? Because I heard that was the great clay shortage.
I didn't have a really, really hard time. At that point, I kind of was able to get what I needed, but it definitely was, the shelves were bare.
Yeah. And it's nice, and I guess you can just play with whatever's available and use the colors that aren't that popular, decide if you want to use it or not. Okay, my next question is, what inspires you as an artist? I mean, it could just be the nature, or it could be other mediums. It could be anything. Let's start with you, Amy.
Yeah, I find as far as true inspiration, I probably get a lot of input to my creativity, like when I'm riding my bike in nature, or taking a walk, or just something that's really, quiet and maybe even boring. I get a lot of input into my creative senses when I'm driving a lot, and there's just that hum of the road. And so that's how like ideas come in, and sometimes I have to pull over and write them down. But physical things that I'm really inspired by would be fabric and textiles. I just love patchwork, embroidery, all kinds of textile arts. And so I feel like I was probably a textile artist in some other form in another life or something, because if I get in a position where I need an idea, a lot of times I'll go to my closet, or I'll go online and look at color schemes and textures and textiles for, color inspiration. So yeah, that's where it comes from for me.
And are you a person that would sketch an idea, or it's in your head and you're able to just create it? Because I'm learning to sketch. I'm not loving it yet, but
I don't sketch. I sketch in clay. I just try it out in clay. And if it takes several, iterations to get it where I want it to, that's fine. but I don't sketch it out. I just go right to the clay and let what the clay does inform my next move. And I know that's probably crazy because, you know, in graphic design school, we had to do thumbnails of everything and then boil it down to 10 and then boil it down to a few. And that's not where I'm at with my clay world.
Okay, Anka, first of all, what inspires you? Or is that other mediums? And also then how do you create? Do you sketch? Does the clay
Yeah,
speak to you?
what inspires me? Actually, life inspires me, and whatever I do. I mean, I have a lot of friends and also my family. Nearly everyone in my family does something creative.
Wow.
My daughter does animation at university. My son is filming. My husband is an architect. My mom is a tailor. And, you know, whoever I talk to or whatever I do, there might be a spark in it. It might be something tiny like a texture or the way a leaf curls, or maybe something chipping off the wood or something. There's so many things. And most of the times is if I don't do anything that has something to do with polymer clay, if I'm doing something completely different, like dishes or washing up or doing the laundry or something like this, there's just a spark coming. And I think like, oh yeah, that's the way I could do it. I have to try it out. And then I go in the studio and try it out. And I do sketch, unlike Amy. I'm a trained architect and I'm just a planner. I have to think things through sketching. And I also find like a lot of times it saves me a lot of time because I already try to figure out how the structure of something is, or if things go together, or what size it should be. And especially when I'm doing like work for someone else and I have a certain set of rules that I have to apply to that. It might be either a workshop I'm developing, or they want, sometimes it's Sculpey that they want something for a package or something using a certain color or something like that. And I actually have my sketchbook here, so I can give you a little view into it. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So I have like paper models and then trying out different shapes. This is for construction of a necklace. And sometimes it looks like this because I have all these pieces of paper from somewhere else and I'm gluing them together to get my ideas on paper. Yeah, or here I've been working with different colors and things I found on Pinterest or something. So it can look totally different on each page. And it does matter. It does depend on what I'm working with. And sometimes I go straight into the clay. It really depends on what I'm doing and what the inspiration is. There is no rule except make something.
Well, I definitely found that helpful because I took Loretta Lamb's design class and I was having to learn to sketch and I can't draw and I can't sketch. So I use my templates and use like the corner of that template, the corner of that, you know, try to come up with something. But so many times, like when I let my mind go empty, something comes in, but I just need to grab anything and write on it. Cause then my brain is like, oh, I don't have that sketchbook with me and I just let it go. But I like that you grabbed, it could be, I don't know, maybe a receipt and you could draw it out and then just tape it in your book later. And it didn't even occur to me that I could do that. So
Yeah. You don't have to take the whole book with you. You just need
don't.
some paper and a pen.
Yes.
Or sometimes even I take pictures with my phone. I mean, I do it a lot because I know, okay, I've seen that thing and that has a certain color and I just take a picture of it and then print it out from my phone and put it in the sketchbook or something like that.
Oh yeah. And I remember I saw Lindley at Dam Retreat and she had a color combination, you know, how she's and I wound up going, I'm gonna paint my living room walls this color and I'm making the color next to it the pillows that I'm going to put on my couch. And that was my inspiration for having a plum living room because of what she did on that. So all right, yes, and same thing for you, Lauren. What's your inspiration, and then also how do you create?
I love to travel and I love art, modern art, and I love to take photos. So I kind of combine all of those things. I'm always taking pictures of, shapes in the sidewalk or interesting colors that are next to each other, like out in the world, like out in the city. I love the city a lot. And interesting murals and things like that. So I'm kind of always gathering ideas and taking photos of them. And I love the color picker feature on Instagram. You can bring in a photo and you can choose the colors. And so I'll do that a lot and like create a color palette from there. A lot of the times I jump right into the clay when I have an idea, but sometimes if I'm like out and I like can't do it, I will, kind of draw something on my phone really quickly. I've woken up the next morning and had these like really strange drawings that like I must have like in the middle of the night like sat up and I was like, no, this is what I'm gonna do. And like it was absolutely nonsense. And the next morning I couldn't figure out what it was. But rarely will I draw things out. Particularly I'll kind of get the idea in my head and need to like go do it right away. Because I kind of like to say that I paint with clay because I like to do slabs and with lots of layers and, kind of abstract things. And so I like to be able to very like tactile, kind of translate a painting into clay.
And I love that because I went and checked out your website and stuff, and you make a lot of earrings, and that is what got me excited about coming back to clay was during 2020, and it was all those earrings coming on my Instagram feed, and I got so excited, and that's what brought me back to clay. And now I don't make a lot of earrings. It's funny, that's what brought me back in. And then I'm all about like, okay, wall art and what else, and covering this base. And so I've kind of transitioned. So all right, so now we're going to switch over to, I'm going to get the slideshow ready and get that prepared. I'm going to share my screen again. Slideshow, and I believe that we are starting with Amy on this one as well. So no, Anke, there we go. So what can you tell us about these
earrings?
Gorgeous. And so is this another part of that you would sketch these out, or is this part of just the play and the fun of it? Or
yeah, these I sketched out, and they were for an online class I did for Craftcast. So as you can see, there's multiple variations of the same thing. So I made them and tried to figure out how to do them, but then I also recorded myself to show in class how I'm doing them. So that's why there's multiple of the same thing. And that's also something I have to do a lot, or I'm doing a lot when I'm doing projects for someone. You have to be able to repeat what you're doing. And because when you show it to others, or also when you're teaching workshops, people want to make the thing they see. So you have to be able to repeat it. And that means also when I'm working, I'm constantly taking pictures of myself, or my hand rather, of what I'm doing, because I need some kind of memory keeping of what I'm actually doing. And if I'm working for myself, not for anyone, that's totally different, because then I just dive into it, and I'm kind of zoning out. Sometimes I'm listening to a talking book or something and don't take any pictures, and that's like my paradise zone, I would say, because then I can let go, and I don't have to be so strict about what I'm doing actually. But it also is a lot of fun to show other people how to do things, or how I am doing things, because everyone has their own ways. And they always go like, oh, you do it like that. That's interesting. I never thought about it. And I think that's the most fun about working with other people. Everyone does it a little bit different. And sometimes you just go like, oh, that's an interesting idea. I never thought about doing it that way. Yeah.
I think that's why people teach, is they like to keep learning too.
Yeah.
And I love this too, because you're making your own ear wires and you're teaching people also that.
Yeah. Well, actually, as I was saying, when I started working with polymer clay, after I had that brooch phase with polymer clay, I started making a lot of earrings. And I was working with wire, and then all kinds of stuff I found. So the wire I'm using for my own earrings now is kind of coming from that phase where I was working with my own earrings and everything. And I think it's not very hard to make basic ear wires, but they look so much more professional than just going out and buying the ready-made ones and using them for your work. And I can choose which kind of metal I want to use. I can choose which shape I want to do. And it's not that difficult to make basic wire shapes. So I prefer that to ready-made findings for my jewelry.
Mm-hmm. And you have such a
so
variety.
yeah, that's a whole bunch of different things, and they were made for different events or ideas. Sometimes I really like earrings because they're kind of like a smallish project, and also you just have to make two that are the same, and you don't even have to do that because you could have like on one side one style and on the other side another style. So I'm quite easily bored when I have to make like a row of things the same thing. So earrings don't do that to me. And they're kind of like little sketches for me because I can try out a new technique and just need two little things to make a pair of earrings.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, as you can see, I'm trying out lots of different techniques and colors and variations.
Oh, and I saw this was a class you had, right?
Yeah, this is kind of my signature work, really. I think when I started making these graffiti bangles, they really took off, and I've been teaching them a lot. And I'm really a lot into graffiti and all these urban things. And I tried to translate it into polymer clay. And yeah, I've been teaching tons of them, and it's always lots of fun. Yeah, I call these hungry fungus because they look like they would be biting you if you stick your finger in the middle, which people tend to do. Yeah, and I really like those. They're kind of a little bit whimsy, and they're also very organic, and there comes my love for nature in there, but in a weird way. And I always like to have like a little bit of a weird twist in my work. This was for Sculpey, and we had a contest where you should work only with liquid clay. So every clay in here is made, it's all liquid clay. And I made these hollow beads with liquid clay, which is not really the first idea you would have when you think about liquid clay.
No, because my question was like, how did you get those bead shapes? Because they're just all uniform and perfect. And I like that. It's hard for me to do organic because it's like, this needs to be straighter. This needs, but that's amazing. And is that a mold? I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it's a Sculpey mold. It's like donuts on both sides of the single beads, and then there's a mold for the lace in there. And the only thing that's solid clay is the backing of the lace, basically.
Yeah. I have that lace one, but I'm gonna look for that donut mold. That's for sure. And Anke, you're in all kinds of places, but for anyone that wants to pause this recording, then you can find out where you're at. But you can also just Google your name and it comes up. So,
yeah.
Well, thank you for showing that. Your work is beautiful.
Thank you.
Linda's not here, and she wanted to be here, but we're going to go through her work. She's on a cruise right now. So Linda Leach is another one, and she comes to our IPCA Zooms on Sunday, so we see her quite a bit, and she shares a lot of her work. But she makes these adorable birds. She does these. Yeah, I love birds, so these just speak to me. And vessels. And I'm thinking, is that liquid clay? You think that she's? Does anyone know, or is that? I love it when I see it. I'm like, I have no idea how they made that. Even though I work with clay, I'm still the same way. Like, I have no idea. And this is beautiful. I like how she's got the wire work between the pieces of the hearts and shapes, and yeah. And I think the quilting block is her latest series because she's been talking about that quite a bit. And this is beautiful. And there's so much work. It's just staggering. But I wish she was here. And we can find Linda also on Instagram, and she has a website. Amy.
Hello.
This was so much fun. I made these bowls from your class at the dam retreat last year. You know, I never used liquid clay other than sticking something to something. You know what I mean? I never looked at it as something that's on to be shown. And I had so much fun with this. And I love all my little bowls. That's usually the thing I'm still showing people is like, I made
Good.
this.
Yeah, I was on a really motivated to use liquid Sculpey in connection with what I call solid Sculpey, because now we have clay in liquid form and clay in bar form. So driven to recreate the look of ceramic or enamel, drip pottery, anything that involved glazes and, you know, traditional or modern ceramic art, and to try to do glass work and ceramic work. And so I find that a tiny vessel like this piece here, it's about the size of a soap dish. So it's, you know, the size of your hand.
All of these they're not, I mean, you could hold them in your hand.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And I find that the landscape of a tiny vessel like that, and especially one that has a lot of flat surface, is a really great way to work out a design. It gives you enough space to work out a little bit bigger design than, say, jewelry. And so that's what I was doing, was trying to mimic different glazing techniques and different glasswork techniques in these small vessels.
Well, and for me, when I did it, the small vessel was the perfect way, especially if you have beginners. And if you have beginners who are not jewelry, they don't want to bead, they don't want to make earrings. But I thought this was the great introduction to clay. If you are teaching someone new, I thought, yeah, this is the way to go, because then you can gift it.
The little, like this one that says "Go with the flow," the little scripts and scraps in the background, the little dancing triangles, those are snippets of liquid clay that were trimmed off of other projects. And I literally save bags and bags of liquid clay scraps and sprinkle them on other things.
Which is another great thing about our medium. There's very little waste.
Yeah. That feather was drawn in liquid Sculpey and then applied to the surface of that little trinket tray. The trinket tray itself is, you know, scrap primo. So they love to stick to each other. Even if the liquid's already cured, it loves to stick to the surface of the bark.
So you did that on a tile, cured it, and then basically peeled it off and stuck it down, right?
Right. Yeah.
I remember that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we did a full-length video of this project on the Sculpey website. It's me doing this entire project start to finish in real time. And I believe it's on the Sculpey YouTube channel. And so the brightly colored shards that you see there, the triangles, those are all liquid Sculpey with glitter and other types of inclusions. And then it's baked in sheets. It's cut up like shards of glass. It's assembled on a primo tray. And I just love the way that you can say something and illustrate something on this, you know, tiny background. And I love messages. I love quotes. And so the tiny vessel is a way to, you know, present that like at your sink counter to hold your rings, or, you know, just anywhere in a home. They're great gifts to give people to remind them of something positive throughout the day. And you come back to it time and time again.
You write, "We are all made of stars" with clay and like a fine tip bottle, or what's that written with?
So that particular section, the quote, I embossed the quote itself with a 2mm ball stylus in the raw clay.
Okay.
Baked it, and then just came back and backfilled with the liquid Sculpey, because liquid Sculpey is such a great antiquing medium.
Yeah, that's a great idea, especially when, you know, like those kids that have unusual names that you're not going to find a little license plate or a pencil.
Yeah.
I named my daughter Sarah, so we could always find a license plate with her name on it.
Well, if you spelled it correctly.
I know I might just say RA. It's funny, but
Yeah.
but Dana is harder to find. But now anyone that's got an unusual name, make them
Yeah.
a personalized gift with their name on it. I love that.
Yeah. This was one of my first attempts at making like something mid-century modern. So all the colors that you see, it's basically a white vessel with all the colors then are liquid Sculpey elements that were pre-baked and applied to the dish. And then it's a little bit lumpy because I was trying to make, it take on the look of something that had various glazes applied. And so a lot of times when you look at ceramic art, the glazes, different colors of glazes could be lifted off the surface just based on their consistency. And so then the whole thing was sealed with clear liquid Sculpey, which gives it this smooth surface going over the little intricate bumps. And again, all those little doodads in the background are snippets of other liquid clay trimmings that were sprinkled into place.
A great
So
idea.
I just love liquid clay. It's my favorite. And applying it with bar clay is just, it's so fun.
I'm absolutely addicted to it now since your class. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, good. Good. This one is a combination of molds and so the brown in the middle of that sunflower and actually the sunflower design itself. I don't know if you remember, Amy, we were pouring liquid Sculpey into carved glass.
Yeah.
And using the carved glass as our mold, and then peeling it off the glass and repositioning it onto solid clay. And so I love collages too. I'm very much into collages. I want to put tons of information in everything I do, and I usually have to take some information back out because it becomes too chaotic. But I do love the collage system, and this would be, sort of it doesn't look like a collage, but it really is based on what all went into that to make that tiny bowl.
Well, and I can't go to the thrift store without going right to the crystal and glass section now, only to look at the textures of the bottom of that chafing dish or something. So that's from your class. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is where we can find you, Facebook.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then, of course, all over the Sculpey website, they can find you.
Yeah, at Sculpey website and the Sculpey YouTube channel. If you see something that's just hand movement, that's probably my hands.
Yeah.
On the Sculpey YouTube channel. So
Okay, Lauren. Look at these color. Oh my gosh, gorgeous. Are these earrings?
These are earrings. So that was part of my 90s collection that I did recently. I'm really inspired by all of the colors and the graphic design of the 90s. And so those are actually paper chains. Remember, you made like an elementary school to come down to summer. And so, I bought a pack of construction paper and matched the colors perfectly. And so they're big dangles, but they are really, really fun. They're like instant nostalgia.
I love this because I'm going to be teaching 3rd grade. And I'm already collecting my teacher persona jewelry. And these would fit right in.
Yes, I tell people that my stuff is kind of art teacher vibe.
Yeah.
That was the reason I got into making these clay earrings, is because I used to be an elementary school social worker, and then I became a full-time artist. And I was like, I don't have any earrings that like really personify that. Everything was just like silver and plain. And, and I like went on a huge hunt and couldn't find anything. And I was like, I can fix this problem.
Well, and the kids just, especially if you're, I love these because I try to wear something that gets the kids' attention, because other things like these, yeah, I'd get nothing out of that. But this would just be like, oh my gosh, I wore Pokemon earrings the other day and I had 50 kids notice these little button Pokemon earrings. So I know this is the first thing they would comment in the morning is like, did you make those earrings? But no, I'll just buy those from you. I'm not going to make those. So
Yep. I sell to tons of teachers. And that's what, if you look at my reviews on Etsy, it's like, my students love them. My students love them.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm excited. These are beautiful.
So when we were displaced after the pandemic started, because we were living overseas, and we kind of ended up with nowhere to go, and we loved Asheville in North Carolina. And so we were like, well, let's just go there. So we moved to Asheville, and we were so grateful to be there because we could still get outside and hike. And we lived right by NC State or UNC Asheville, and we could hike up to their observatory. And this was the ridge line that you could see. And just driving, I don't know if I know Asheville is such a great, tourist destination, but I mean, just driving to Target in the evening, this is the view we would have, just everywhere around us was just so inspiring. And I was like, I have to figure out a way to translate this to clay. And so, I learned how to do the Skinner blend, and then I was hand cutting all of the mountains, and I started selling them, and they started like really, really selling. So I finally had a girl. I sent her my drawing, and she made me 3D cutters of the mountain scenes. So I was able to do those quicker and a little more uniform. But these are definitely my most popular of all time ever.
Oh, they're so beautiful. And I love Asheville. My guild's in Asheville. That's the Blue Ridge group. So anyone else who's listening. Oh my gosh, definitely. Oh, art teacher vibes. That's what I'm feeling right there.
Yes, very Miss Frizzle, very Nickelodeon. People get like so excited when they see these in person. They're kind of that idea too of like painting with clay and getting to layer, and and that's acrylic paint that I've got the little black dots. I need to get more into liquid clay as I'm listening to you guys talk, because I kind of came from a painting background, and so I'm always used to grabbing my acrylic paints. And so I love that you're able to mix so many different mediums can go into polymer to create whatever it is that you want.
Oh my gosh, so much fun. Oh, you make dishes too?
Yes, so I've kind of started branching into more home accessories. So I've got trinket dishes, sun catchers. I love making really funky sun catchers. They're just so pleasing, because I always have junk laying around. And so it's so nice to have something beautiful to actually put things in.
I'm kind of going through this mobile stage. Our secretary for the IPCA has this beautiful mobile she made out of polymer clay of sailboats. And ever since then, I've been thinking about making mobiles. What can I do with all these leftover beads or, some other thing. But yeah, sun catchers.
Yeah. And I like to mix the crystals, the actual sun catchers in there with them. They're really beautiful.
Oh, so much fun.
Yeah, so the ones on the left are, more of that 90s style. So you can kind of see it back there. It's a painting that I had done, and I just loved it so much. And so I did a slab of it, and I painted it with the clay. And so people always pick those up, and they ask, they're like, are these painted? What are they? But once you touch them, you realize they're very textured. So that, again, that's one of my favorite things to be able to do with clay, is that you can actually like paint with it. And then the earrings on the right are the same thing. They're those like funky art teacher vibes, like stuff you just can't find in the store.
And what I like too about when you do have slabs is then you have no two that are the same too. That you get a lot of mileage out of making a slab.
Yes, I love that. They're kind of always a surprise when people order them. I'm like, you don't know exactly what you're going to get, but it's going to be totally unique.
And here's where we find you also. You're on Instagram and Etsy. Did we miss anything? I wasn't sure if you've got tutorials on the Sculpey site or.
I do. I realized that as I was talking, I have tutorials on my own blog and on the Sculpey blog, but it's just lauren-likes.com. And if you go to Etsy or Instagram, Instagram will have a direct link to that blog.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me today. I want you to just hang around a little bit after we stop recording, and we'll chat a little bit more. But I really enjoyed this talk, and I appreciate you supporting this new program. It's this polymer clay, basically it's a partnership program, and Sculpey's the first group that we're trying this on, and our goal is to bring more designers to our members and everyone else to start looking closer at what Sculpey has to offer. So thank you so much, and I will see you all next time.